down his hand for me. Youngins, when people singing with that stuff like that, makes me stop and go back in my mind and remember when he reached down for me. When he reached down for me. Oh my, the loving Savior. Now God could have just as easily, I've said it many times, wadded this world up and thrown it in the trash can. When men sinned in the garden. But he didn't. He sent heaven's best. He sent heaven's best. God didn't come himself, but he sent his son.
Amen.
Couldn't send Matthew or Sabrina. God sent his son for me. Amen. In the place that I was at. In the place that I was at. I'm not going to finish yet. Amen. Luke chapter 13 this morning. I believe that'll be all right. Luke chapter 13. I got 2 sermons in this one chapter. I've studied both of them this week. We may just preach both of them. So, anybody hungry? There you go. Amen. There won't be no use to it. What we'll do, we'll preach real long, so them folks what gets out early, they'll done get through the line, so we won't have no line. Going to the restroom. There you go. Amen. Youngest, I love you this morning. But I'm glad he reached down his hand for me.
Amen.
Amen.
I'm sure glad the Lord loved me enough that he looked past all my faults and my failures, my sins, my vileness, my wretchedness. That he looked past all of that. And he seen my needs.
Amen.
And he loved me enough to where he reached through all of that and saved my soul. Amen. But I'm glad also that he loves me enough that even today, after all these years of walking with him and the victories that he's given me in my life, I'm just like Israel. I get my chest poked out and I say I can do it myself. And God says, okay. See how it works out. And I get to the end of my rope. And God says, I still love you.
Amen.
You messed up, but I still love you.
Amen.
And the world says, when you get to the end of your rope, Brother Allen, you're on a hot spot today, brother. Says, when you get to the end of your rope, time not, just hang on. That ain't what God said.
That's right.
God said, just turn loose.
That's right.
And I'll catch you.
Amen. Amen. That's right.
You don't have to do it in your strength.
That's right.
You can do it in my strength. Amen. I'm feeling like preaching now, Jim. Amen.
Amen.
I'm beginning to feel that little touch from heaven. The Bible says, and we're not going to ask you to stand this morning simply because I don't know if we'll read both of these or just one of them. So I don't know. The Bible says in chapter 13, verse number 6, he spake also this parable. A certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came and sought fruit thereon and found none. Amen. If you go back to John chapter 15, I believe it is, where he says, I am the branch, and you are the vine. And if the branch beareth not fruit, you know what he said he's going to do? He's going to cut it off and burn it in a fire. And burn it in a fire. So, the Lord is not pleased with a fruitless life. And I'm glad He's a God of another chance.
That's right.
I said, I'm glad He's a God of another chance.
Amen.
Not a second chance, but another chance.
That's right.
We'll get there in just a minute, Brother Dave. Amen. But he said, and he found none. Well, there was me one day. Then said he unto the dresser of this vineyard, Behold, these 3 years I come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and found none. Said, I've done this for 3 years. I've come by this old tree. I've got an apple tree in my in my orchard. I guess it ain't really an orchard. But I got one old apple tree. I've been threatening to cut that thing down. It bears out. I've seen it bear 3 apples. And then this big rain. I have done what the Bible says. Well, we'll get there in just a minute. And I've been threatening to cut that thing down. I've pruned her back and I've done it, but I know part of it's trouble. And I'm going to try my best to remedy some of that this year. And I understand this. I understand this because I got to mow under that stupid thing. And why do I mow under it if it ain't going to give me no fruit? Because it takes my hat off every time I go under it. Because I have tried to prune it like it's supposed to. You know, you prune anything that's across it, anything growing up, and any a few other things, but you want your limbs to come out and come down. So your fruit ain't way up yonder. You know what I'm saying? And so I've pruned that thing and got it where I've got one of these 0-turn mowers, but you don't sit on it, you stand on it. So it puts you a little higher. And that dude, like I said, I don't know how many times that thing's knocked my head off. And I have to make a circle and pick it back. And what's aggravating is when you make that circle and pick it back up, you blow grass in your hat. So anyway, anyhow, out of that 3 years. And I've been aggravated at it. He said, I've been by this thing 3 times, 3 years. I've given it multiple chances. I have given this tree chance after chance after chance after chance. That's why I say, Sister Betty, I'm sure glad He's a God of another chance.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Now be sure your sins will find you out.
Amen.
Yeah, let's get to the message. So he said, I've been by here and I'm tired of fooling with it. So he says, I've been 3 years, I've come seeking fruit on this tree and found none. He said, cut it down. Why cumber it? The ground. Why even bother to let it pull? Why even bother to let it pull the nutrients out of the ground? We could put in a tree that'll bear fruit. This thing is sucking the stuff out of the ground, and it's hurting the trees around us because they ain't getting what we need. That's what he's saying. He said, I've blessed you, and I've blessed you, and I've blessed you, and I've blessed you, and I've blessed you. And I look around, and I see some folks that's blessed.
Amen.
He's blessed the people in America tremendously. If you don't believe it, I was talking to a fella while Sandy was shopping. I sat in the pickup talking to a fella about a track hoe. He asked me what I was doing. I said, I'm people watching. And he said, well, he said, that's a lot of fun, ain't it? I said, I never realized just how many fat people they are in this world. There's more fat people than they are skinny people.
Amen. That's true. Yeah, go do.
If your phone's ringing, answer, that's all I can tell you. Y'all know why there's so many fat people? Because God has blessed you, and He's blessed you, and He's blessed you, and He's blessed you. I told that little old girl one day we was talking about being blessed, and I told her, I said, you ain't much of a billboard for God. You're skinny. Skinny people ain't much of a billboard. I'm a walking billboard that God does bless. Amen. Amen. So he said, I've blessed it, and I've blessed it, and I've given it what it needs. I've given it everything it needs. But it still won't bear fruit. So, cut it down. Just cut it down and I'm done with it. I went to, while Dale was doing children's church, I went and got the tree. Well, like I said, I wasn't sure if that's what we was going with. I went and got the tree. Amen. He said, I've blessed it, and I've blessed it, and I've blessed it. And it still ain't bearing a drop of fruit. That thing right there reminds me a whole lot of some of these Christians. It looks pretty.
Yeah.
Looks pretty. But there's not any life in it. I believe that's a church member, don't you? That's not a Christian, that's a church member. There's a big difference, Betty, between a Christian and a church member. Church member just got, I'm running rabbits. Man, there's a lot of rabbits up here. Church member don't have anything inside of it, but it looks good. Anyway, moving on. So he said, cut her down. Cut her down. I'm done with it. God said, whack it now, whack it down. God said, whack it down. Cut it down. I'm done with it. Don't you look. I'm glad it didn't stop there. God said, cut it down. Why come running around here sucking up nutrients that other people need? And he answering said unto him, Lord, let it alone this year also, till I shall dig about it and dung it. You know what Jesus said? Jesus said, let it alone.
That's right.
Let me work on it just a little bit. Let me work on it just a little bit. Let me work on it. Don't put no axe to this tree yet. Satan wanted you cut down a long time ago.
Amen.
Satan wanted you cut down a long time ago. If it had been left up to him, you'd have never got to this day.
Amen.
He'd have took an axe to your tree and cut you down.
That's right.
But Jesus said, no. Let me work with it a little bit. Let me work. No, don't bother. Let me work with it. Let me work with it a little bit. I'm glad, thank God, there's mercy. And God is a God of another chance.
Amen.
Brother George, God, if the devil had his way, he'd have cut me down in the bars of Newport News, Virginia. He'd have took me out. He'd have given me some kind of drug that was more than this old body would handle.
That's right. That's right.
And I'd OD'd, and that'd have been the end of me if the devil had his way. And he's having a way with a lot of people.
Amen.
And he's having his way with a lot of people. Oh, just sit on your haunches and don't worry about it. You've got another day. But Jesus said, let me work with it a little bit. So if Jesus the dresser of the vineyard goes and gets a shovel and he starts digging around that tree. Digging around that tree. My daddy used to fertilize them with some apple trees and stuff. He got a long bar. And he used to take that bar and he'd go around that tree with that long bar. And he'd poke holes all the way around that tree with that long bar. I mean, we're talking about a slate bar. We ain't talking about a bar. I'm talking about a bar. And he'd poke holes all the way around them trees. Then he'd get his fertilizer. And he'd go around that tree and let that fertilizer fall down in them holes. So therefore that fertilizer would get a little deeper. And he says, according to him, it'd pull them roots down a little farther where they'd be reaching for that fertilizer. And as the tree would grow, he wouldn't fertilize up against the tree, but he'd fertilize out away from the tree so that the roots would reach for that fertilizer and then pull them out a little farther. That's my daddy. Don't mess with my daddy. Amen. He said, therefore, that tree would be more stable than if it had just one little old roots right up close. He said that pulled them roots out away from that tree. And it gave it more ground to get a hold of. It gave it a better foundation. Can I preach right there for just a minute? Y'all mind? Amen. Give a better foundation. You know what? We got something here for this minute, brother. We got something here. We got to fertilize. I don't mean to get on the fertilizer. I said, let me get off the fertilizer and get on the oil first. But he took his shovel and he dug around that thing. And he dug out. I could see him. And man, there'd be rocks around that thing. He'd dig around that to get that rock out, get that rock out of the way so it wouldn't cause that. When you plant taters, I like to put a little sand, mixed sand in my tater heels. Keeps my dirt loose so the dirt won't keep my taters from growing a little small. You know what I'm saying? I believe sometimes folks has got so much tight grip of the world, they can't grow. Amen. The world's got them in such a tight grip, they can't grow. So what he done is he loosened the dirt around that tree so that tree had room to spread its roots. If you spend all your time watching the news, guess you're going to be a gloomy Gus, I'm telling you. That's right. If you're going to spend all your time watching this and doing this in the world and reading the newspapers and doing these things and running to and fro in the world has a hold on you till you cannot grow in the Lord. Amen. Amen. And so Christ, Jesus started digging around that tree. I'm glad he dug around the tree. Yeah. And he exposed the world to me, and exposed the weeds, and exposed the troubles, and exposed the trials. And I found out some things. And he allowed me to see what the world was doing for me. Amen. Not a blame thing. That's right. And so he dug around it, and he loosened the grip of the world, loosened the grip of the soul. He dug out the rocks. In other words, he exposed the rocks and dug out the things that was going to be harmful to my life. Amen. How did he do that? He sent troubles and trials my way. Right. I would have never come to God if he'd have just kept blessing me and blessing me and blessing me and blessing me and blessing me. I would have never came to God. But I run into some troubles and trials in this world. And he loosened the world's grip by that way. There was things that come in my life before I was saved that made me go, oh Lord, look where I'm at now. He got me to the place to where I looked at myself and I said, I don't like where I'm at.
Amen.
You know what he was doing? He's digging around me.
That's right.
He was tenderly loving me.
That's right.
He was tenderly caring about me. Oh, you say, well, preacher, he let that trouble come in your life? He sure did. You don't know why? Because he cared.
That's right.
Because he cared. And so he dug around me, and then after I started realizing what I was and trying to get back to what my mama tried to teach me when I was young, and boy, wished I had. Wasted 30 years. I come to Christ late in life. I wished I'd have got saved when I was 6, 8 years old, but I didn't. But he started fertilizing my life. Even before I was saved, he placed some people in my life. Maybe if I'd just listened to them a long time ago, it would have been all right. But he opened my ears. He opened my ears that I could hear him. I couldn't hear him when I was in my stupid state. So he started fertilizing me. And I looked over at my wife and I said, we're going to church somewhere. You ought to have seen the shock and dismay on her face. And so we started going to church. And God started working, started fertilizing, started working and fertilizing my life. And allowing my roots to expand further than job, drugs. Well, not so much. I'd pretty much hung up the drugs, but Sandy done beat that out of me. But the alcohol, I got my roots out of myself so much, I guess you'd say. I got my roots out of myself instead of living that selfish life. And I started going to church, and I got to listening to the Word of God. And he got to fertilizing my soul. And I got to growing a little bit. And I realized the old preacher come by the verse that all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And I realized I was a sinner. And I realized that God would save my soul. And he fertilized me. And he fertilized me. It wasn't long. He protected my life. And he kept me till he saved me. And he saved me. And then, after he saved me, we got to trying to find the direction that God wanted us to go in. He said, leave him alone for another year. And if he comes back harvest time, and he hadn't grown fruit, he said, verse number 9, he said, if it bear fruit well, and if not, then after that thou shalt cut it down. He said, if it'll bear fruit, if you'll just turn to me and start bearing fruit. And you know what happened to me? I started growing. I started growing in the Lord. And I growed in the Lord. It wasn't long till the Lord started working with me and dealing with me. Mom and I, we went from this church to that church trying to find where we were supposed to be. Some of you folks is blessed. You found where you're supposed to be early. And she made the comment. She said, I wished we'd find a church and just get in it. She was tired of moving. Well, I wound up out at Little Pine. And I've been God's been dealing with me to preach for quite some time. And I fell on the old altar that night and answered to God. And God kept fertilizing. And I went to Mama that evening, or the next day. I was dreading going because she'd made that comment. And I thought, oh, I dread telling her we're going to move church one more time. And I went and told her, I said, we're going to move. We're moving to Little Pine. So I said, God's called me to preach. And she looked at me and she said, well, I know that a long time ago. So, then y'all messed up. She voted me in here. And the church ain't been the same since. But young'uns, what I'm trying to say is, after God dug around me and done me and fertilized me and put me in His work, I'm glad, thank God, I wouldn't change that. I wouldn't go back to that old lifestyle for nothing. I enjoy being God's.
Amen.
I enjoy being God's and being used of the Lord. You say, well, your religious thing. Well, you say what you are. I'm just saved. Amen. I'm not looking for religion. I'm looking for a relationship. And I got a Heavenly Father. In the darkest day of my life, He said He'd never leave me nor forsake me. And I got somebody that'll encourage me along the way.
Amen.
And help me along the way. And I'm going to preach for just a few minutes. I'm not going to get to the little lady that was bowed over. I started that on the radio this morning. But this is the next parable. If you get a chance to read it, because you may hear it preached here one of these days. It's the next parable. But I'm going to preach for just a few minutes, if y'all don't mind. And I may get loud and get happy. I'm just going to go ahead and warn you. I may get happy. Because God loved me enough that He gave me another chance.
Amen.
I know what it was. I know where my life had gotten to. I could buy drugs cheaper in Newport News and bring them in here and sell them. I know where I was at. But God looked through, and old devil looked at him and said, look at him. Look what he is. He ain't nothing. He ain't going to never serve you. Why don't you just cut him down? But Jesus said, leave him alone. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. Let me work with him. And I'm glad Brother Dale, he sent things my way. And he sent stuff my way. And glory to God, he said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, devil. He said, you just watch this, big boy. And he picked the devil up by the nape of the neck and the seat of the breeches and set him down on the stump and said, watch what I can do with this little boy from Edmonds, North Carolina. Look what I can do with him. Oh, he said, I'm just going to save his soul. And he said, hey, devil, watch this. I'm going to save his soul. And he started working with me. And it wasn't long till I looked up and I said, Lord, I'm not accepting you. But Lord, would you just accept me just as I am? I need you. God, I know you don't need me. But I sure need you. I know you don't need me. But I sure need you. And glory to God, God said, I'll take you. just like your big boy. And He started fertilizing my soul. And He started fertilizing me. And He pulled the grip of the world off of me. I said, thank God. When the Son makes you free, you're free indeed. I said to you, young, I'm glad, thank God, I've been birthed into a family. Amen. And He took the old devil and He said, tell you what I'm going to do with him. You watch this. I know he don't have no education. I know he's not real smart. And he butchers the English language. But I'm going to call him to preach. I'm just going to use him while he's here on this earth. You watch this, devil.
Amen.
The old devil wanted to cut me down. But Jesus said, I've got to work for him to do. I don't care how vile and wretched he's been. I don't care. I can use him.
Amen.
And glory to God. Young'uns, I wouldn't trade 15 seconds of this life for 15 years of that old life.
Amen.
I like being God's.
Amen.
I'm glad He's a God of another chance.
Amen.
I'm glad He's a God of another chance. If it had been left up to the devil, that's what happened to you.
Amen.
That's what happened to you. You'd have been laying down, and that'd been the end of you. If you'd been left up to the devil, I've said it before, you'd have hung your toe in your sheets this morning, and you'd have fell out of your bed and broke your neck. But God said, leave him alone. Leave Betty alone. I'm going to work with her. Well, we're blessed, ain't we?
Amen.
He's a merciful God. And He's a loving God. The capers I pulled over the years when I was out in sin. Oh, could have left out of here real easy.
Amen.
I know that. That's why I get, when you see me get happy. You wake up in the morning and you look out to see if your pickup's out there or not. I've been there, brother. And if it ain't there, we've got to go find it. Or wake up somewhere and you don't know where you're at. I've been there. But you know what? I don't care if you got saved in Sunday school and you've never done nothing really bad. It took the same amount of blood to save you that it was to save me.
Amen.
How much was that, preacher? Every bit of it.
Amen.
Every bit of it. Every bit of it. He shed it all for you and me. He gave it all that you could be set free. That you didn't have to be cut down. That you don't have to be cut down. If you're looking at parable, the next parable, you'll see that little woman. It said she couldn't do it in herself. She couldn't do it in herself. Christ did it for her. I couldn't quit myself, but Christ did it for me. There was a day that I don't look like I do now. Amen. I'm glad you didn't know me in those days, because I'm not bragging on those days by no means. I'm rather ashamed of them. Amen. That's notes for the next sermon. I'm not bragging on those days. Matter of fact, I'd like to forget those days. I'd like to forget those days. And just keep trucking. But you know what? Going back, Brother Lloyd, and remembering those days, and some of those things, the vile things that I did, shows me just how much God loves me.
Amen.
The love of God. That He would take such a fellow as I into His family. You see, Mom and Daddy, they got what they got. Amen. I mean, I love you, but you got what you got. I mean, you didn't have no choice. You got what you got. We love Jesus. But I got adopted in.
Amen.
And to get adopted in meant that He wanted me.
That's right.
He wanted me. Carol, He wanted me
That's right. Amen.
in His family. He wanted me. Let me take me on that here for just a minute. Amen. He could have said, "Nah, I don't want you." But He didn't.
That's right.
He said, "Whosoever is called upon the name of the Lord shall be saved."
Amen.
What's the little song? Black, yellow, red, or white? Amen.